Hey, this is John with FixYourDirtBike.com, and this is how to change a tire on your dirt bike. There are plenty of videos on how to change your tire out there already, so in this video I'm going to go into greater detail on each step of the process, techniques, and tools. And if you want even more detail on a certain step, you can click on this video link when it pops up. A few notes before you even take your wheel off your bike. You should never have to force your tire on or off the rim. The rim is designed to let the tire bead drop into the center, giving you plenty of room when working on the opposite side of the rim. A warm tire is much easier to work with, so lay your tire in the sun or in a hot car for about half an hour before you start. Tires can't actually stretch because of the metal in the bead wire, but the warm rubber will be much more flexible at the bead and less likely to tear. You can remove and install a tire without lubrication. In fact, during the removal, this tire was so warm I forgot to use it. So remember, the lubricant is not for your benefit, it's for the rim and tire, so keep that in mind when you get to the tough parts. I use rubber grease when I install a new tire. It's totally optional, it's very messy, and you probably don't need it, but I get into that in a different video. I won't be using it in this video because this rim is shot. The spoke mounts are corroded beyond repair, and the rim is cracked, but I can still get plenty of trail use out of it before I need to replace it. So a little soapy water will be just fine. A full set of tire spoons and a bead holder are ideal. Basic tire irons will work, and if you're in a pinch, I can show you how to make your own tools in my DIY tire tools video. I use rim guards for the first part of removal only. If you have a nice new rim, I would suggest sliding them around the rim as you go to protect it as much as possible. It will take more time, but rims aren't cheap. A set of tire spoons goes for around $50, and a bead holder goes for around $15. If you need tools, I'll put a link in the description for the ones I use. Work on your wheel with the brake rotor up. You can use it to hook your tire spoons during removal, and when it's face up, you avoid accidental damage. Plus, when you work on the rear tire, you won't have to worry about punching the sprocket. That really hurts. Removing and installing tires can be very clumsy, but if you can mount your tire without ripping up the bead or pinching the tube, you did it right. If you have a valve stem nut, remove it and save it. Completely remove the Schrader valve from the valve stem. Even if the tube is ripped or punctured, having a valve open is still ideal. If you don't have a valve stem tool, let as much air out as you can. Loosen the rim lock nut, but do not remove it. Give the rim lock a push to make sure it's free. With the brake rotor up, break the tire bead by pressing down firmly on opposite sides of the rim. I would normally apply soapy water, but like I said earlier, this tire was so warm I didn't use it. This tire is also shot, so it didn't matter anyway. Begin removing the tire on the opposite side of the rim lock. This is where I use my rim guards, because this is the hardest part of removal. Work the first spoon between the bead and the rim lip up, and push your tire away from the rim. Do your best to pry past the bead seat. If you damage the rim center, you can easily sand it smooth. The bead seat is a little more work. Take your second spoon, lip down, hook your tire, apply pressure, but do not pull the tire over the rim yet. With your free hand, push down on the opposite side of the rim to drop the tire into the rim center. Now pry the tire over the rim. Work your way around the rim in both directions, ending at the rim lock. With the first side removed, pull the old tube out of the tire. Flip your wheel over, and starting opposite of the rim lock, finish removing the tire from the rim. This time, use your spoons with the lip up and pry the rim up out of the tire. Take this opportunity to clean and inspect your rim and rim lock. I power wash and scrub my rim with CLR, then power wash it again to remove any residual chemicals. A clean rim is a good foundation for a long-lasting tube and tire. If you're just changing your tube, check and see how old your tire is before you install it. You may want to look into a new one while it's mostly off. To find the date of manufacture, find the oval stamp on the sidewall. The last 4 digits will tell you when your tire was manufactured. The first 2 numbers are the week, and the last 2 numbers are the year. So this tire was made the 20th week of 2005. Check your tire and see if it is directional. If it is, there will be an arrow on the sidewall pointing in the direction of rotation, and you need to orient your rim and tire accordingly. For example, if your front brake is on the left fork, lay your rim down with the rotor facing up. When you look up from the rotor, the arrow on the tire should point left. If there is no arrow, your tire is bidirectional, and you can install it either way. If you serviced your rim, make sure you have reinstalled the rim lock. There are 2 ways to mount your tire. You can install the first bead, and then the tube, or the tube, and then the first bead. I will show you both methods, starting with bead, then tube. No matter what method you use, the valve stem nut goes on the inside of the rim. I know this seems counterintuitive, but there's a very good reason. The nut supports the valve stem and protects the rubber of the valve stem joint from rubbing against the inside of the rim. But more importantly, with the nut on the inside, the valve stem has more lateral play if your tube goes out of alignment, helping to avoid damage. To start the install, stand the tire up and push down from the top. This will open the tire a little and let you slip the rim lock in. Make sure the brake rotor is facing the tire when you start. This will ensure the rotor is face up during install. Lay the wheel rotor side down. With your tire spoons lip down, pry your rim into the tire. Use lubrication as needed. Start your tube install by pushing the valve stem through the valve stem hole. This first step can be a hassle because your fingers, valve stem, and tire are trying to occupy the same space at once. When you finally wrestle the valve stem through, install the nut from the old tube to keep it from slipping back into the rim. Inflate the tube just enough to give it some body. This will help you avoid pinching it with your spoons. Inflate it too much though, and you won't be able to drop a tire into the rim when you need to. Work the tube into the tire, taking care not to twist it. Install the tube and inflate it just enough to keep it in place. With the rotor facing the tire, align and install the valve stem. Take the nut from the old tube and thread it just enough to keep the valve stem from slipping out of the rim. Starting on either side of the valve stem, begin working the first bead into the rim. Use lubrication as needed. You will want to end at the rim lock. At this point, the bead will be ready to slip onto the rim. All you need to do is pull it out enough to slip over the rim lock. Both methods have their benefits. What it comes down to is whether you want to fight the valve stem or fight the rim lock. You want to finish your install away from both the valve stem and the rim lock, so install your bead holder about 6 inches away from your target endpoint. Start opposite of the valve stem. With your tire spoons lipped down, start prying your tire into the rim. Take small bites and use lube as needed. Your install will get harder as you get closer to the end, and this is where you need to take your time. It's very easy to damage your rim and tire at this point, so be patient and use as much lubrication as you need. When you have about 12 inches of tire left to install, you will get a big overhang. Get your spoons into position on one end of the overhang, then push down on the opposite side of your tire. This will drop the tire into the rim center and give you enough room to finish your install. At the end of your install, you may encounter a few inches of tire that don't want to slip over the rim, and you can't fit your third spoon under the bead. Take both spoon handles in one hand, then give the sidewall a good whack with the handle of the third spoon to finish the job. Try to avoid hitting the bead. My valve got misaligned during install, so I'm going to seat the bead here to make sure it seats properly, then release the air and realign the valve stem after the wheel is installed on my bike. If you need some help on realigning your tube, check out my ride prep video on tube alignment. Do not exceed 30 psi when you seat the bead. If you are at 30 psi and the bead won't seat, deflate the tube, check your bead, and try again. Do not tighten the rim lock until after you have seated the bead. If you tighten it before, you could be locking the bead too far into the rim and the rest of the tire won't seat properly. To finish my installs, I apply a little rubber grease to the valve stem and hole. Once I have seated the grease with the nut from the old tube, I install the valve stem cap, tighten the outside nut to the cap, locking it on. This is not necessary, but I like to waterproof my rim as much as I can. Using the right tools and the right techniques, you should only take about 10 minutes to change your tire. If you have any questions or want to share some tips of your own, please leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe.